Richard Chuck Norris did not plan to visit his restaurant that evening. The famous martial artist and actor usually let his team run the daily business, but something made him drive to the newest location in Houston. Maybe it was a feeling, or just a random choice, but as he parked his truck, he felt that he needed to be there. The restaurant was full of people having dinner. Chuck came in through the back door and nodded to a young cook who almost dropped a tray when he saw who had arrived. After many years of fame, Chuck was used to people reacting this way. "Good evening, sir," the cook said with a shaky voice. "We did not know you were coming." "Just checking things," Chuck replied with a kind smile. "Keep working like I am not here." Chuck walked through the kitchen, watching his staff work. Then he heard something strange. Among all the kitchen sounds, pots banging and food cooking, there was a noise that did not belong. He stopped and listened carefully, using the skills he learned from years of martial arts. There it was again, a soft crying sound coming from the walk-in freezer. Chuck frowned and walked toward the sound. The kitchen staff was too busy to notice. As he got closer to the freezer, the crying became clearer. Without waiting, he pulled open the heavy metal door and stepped inside. The cold air hit him right away, but what shocked him more was what he saw. In the corner, between boxes of frozen food, was a young girl who looked about 12 years old. She wore jeans and a thin sweater that could not keep her warm in the freezer. Her face was wet with tears and her eyes showed fear when she looked up at him. "Please," she whispered through chattering teeth, "don't tell them I'm here." Chuck took off his jacket and put it around the girl's shoulders. "You're safe now," he said in a calm voice. "My name is Chuck. What's yours?" "Alice," she said quietly. "Alice Wright." "Let's get you out of this cold, Alice," Chuck said, helping her stand. Her legs were shaky from sitting in the cold for too long. Chuck guided her through the kitchen, keeping her close to shield her from view. He took her to his private office at the back of the restaurant and locked the door behind them. "How long were you in that freezer?" he asked, turning on the heater and finding a blanket in the cabinet. "I don't know exactly," Alice said, her voice getting stronger as she warmed up. "I think maybe 3 days? They put me in there when customers started coming. They said I had to be quiet or else." "Who are they, Alice?" Chuck asked, keeping his voice gentle. Alice looked down at her hands. "The men who took me from my school. They wear black suits and talk funny. They told me they need my dad to give them something important." "Who is your dad?" Chuck asked, though he was starting to guess this was more serious than a normal kidnapping. "Dr. Frank Wright. He's a scientist. He works for NASA," Alice said with a hint of pride despite her fear. "He makes special computers that can talk to each other across space." Chuck nodded, pieces coming together in his mind. Dr. Wright was famous in certain circles for his work on quantum communication, technology that could send messages instantly across any distance. The kind of technology that would be very valuable to certain people. "Alice, have you heard these men mention any names or groups?" Chuck asked. The girl thought for a moment. "They call themselves the Orion something." "Syndicate," Chuck suggested, feeling a chill that had nothing to do with the freezer. Alice nodded. "Yes, that's it." Chuck had heard of the Orion Syndicate before, during his secret work with government agencies. They were not just criminals. They were connected to groups beyond Earth dealing in stolen technology and worse things. "You're safe now," Chuck assured her, though his mind was racing. "I'm going to call some people who can help us. Then we'll contact your father." He took out his secure phone, one that couldn't be traced or hacked easily. He had kept ties with certain agencies over the years, just in case. "Is my dad okay?" Alice asked suddenly. "They said they would leave him alone if he gave them what they wanted." "We'll make sure he's safe," Chuck promised. "Can you tell me anything else about these men? How many were there? Where did they keep you before bringing you here?" "There were 4 men and 1 woman, Alice said, her forehead wrinkling as she remembered. "The woman is their boss. She looks normal, but sometimes her eyes shine in the dark. They kept me in a van for a while, then brought me here last night. They said the exchange is happening tonight." "Exchange?" Chuck asked. "My dad has to bring his invention to them and then they'll let me go," Alice explained. "But I heard them talking when they thought I was asleep." They said once they have the quantum bridge, they won't need any of us anymore. Chuck understood the threat. The syndicate wouldn't leave witnesses, especially not a famous scientist who could make more quantum technology. Before making any calls, Chuck went to his desk and opened a hidden compartment. Inside was a small but powerful gun and a device that looked like a flashlight but wasn't. Some habits from his government work never went away. "Alice, I need you to be brave a little longer," he said, returning to where she sat wrapped in blankets. "I'm going to make some calls and then we're going to make sure you and your dad are safe. Can you do that?" The girl looked at him, her eyes showing a strength beyond her years. "Are you really Chuck Norris, the one from the movies?" Chuck smiled. "I am." A small smile appeared on Alice's face for the first time. "Then those bad guys are in big trouble." "Yes," Chuck agreed, dialing a number he hadn't used in years. "They certainly are." As the phone rang, Chuck looked at the clock on the wall. It was 7:30 p.m. If the exchange was happening tonight, they didn't have much time to prepare. But Chuck Norris had faced worse odds before, and he wasn't about to let a group of criminals, even ones with possible alien connections, use his restaurant for their schemes or hurt an innocent girl and her father. The phone connected and a familiar voice answered. "This is Carter." "Sam, it's Chuck," he said. "I need your help. The Orion Syndicate is back and they've made a big mistake. They're operating in my restaurant." Chuck ended his call with Samantha Carter, his old friend who worked for a secret government group. She promised to be at the restaurant with a team in less than 2 hours. Now Chuck needed to contact Dr. Frank Wright, but that would not be easy. The scientist worked in a high-security area at NASA, and Chuck would need to use special connections to reach him. While Alice rested on the office couch, wrapped in warm blankets, Chuck made several calls. Finally, after 30 minutes of trying, he got through to Dr. Wright. "This is Dr. Wright," said a tired voice. The man sounded like he hadn't slept in days. "Dr. Wright, my name is Chuck Norris. I found your daughter, Alice. She is safe with me." There was a moment of silence, then a sound that was half sob, half laugh. "You found her? She's okay? Where was she?" "The police couldn't find any leads, and the kidnappers said if I called them, they would—" "Alice is fine," Chuck cut in. "She's a bit cold and scared, but not hurt. She's with me at my restaurant in Houston. But we need to talk about why she was taken. About the Orion Syndicate." Dr. Wright went quiet. When he spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. "How do you know about them?" "That's a long story," Chuck said. "What matters now is keeping your daughter and your research safe. I have people coming to help, but I need to know what the Syndicate wants from you." "They want my quantum bridge," Dr. Wright said. "It's a device that can send messages instantly across any distance in space. No delay, no way to block it or listen in. I built a working model last month." "And they found out," Chuck said. "It wasn't a question." "Yes. They contacted me 3 days ago, said they had Alice, and would only give her back if I handed over the bridge and all my research. The exchange is set for midnight tonight at your restaurant." Chuck looked at his watch. 8:15 p.m. Less than 4 hours to prepare. "Dr. Wright, I need you to trust me. I'll bring Alice back to you safely, but I'm also going to make sure these people regret ever stepping into my restaurant." "I'll do anything you say," the scientist promised. "Just keep my little girl safe." "Here's what we'll do," Chuck explained. "Come to the restaurant, but bring a fake version of your device. Something that will pass a quick check but won't work if they try to use it. Can you do that?" "Yes," Dr. Wright said, sounding more confident. "I can modify a prototype to look correct but fail once they try to use it. It would even send out a signal we could track." "Perfect. Be here by 10:30 p.m. My team will be in place by then." Chuck ended the call and looked over at Alice, who had fallen asleep exhausted from her ordeal. At 9:45 p.m., Sam arrived with 4 agents. They wore normal clothes but carried special weapons and equipment. Chuck took them to his office and explained the situation. Sam, a tall woman with short blonde hair and sharp eyes, looked at the sleeping girl. "Poor kid, the syndicate is getting bolder. Using a civilian restaurant as a meeting place shows they're not worried about being caught. They picked the wrong restaurant," Chuck said. His voice was calm, but his eyes were hard as steel. One of Sam's agents, a man named Don, placed small devices around the room. These will block any signals from outside. No one can listen to our plans. Good, Sam said. Now let's talk about what we know. The Orion Syndicate is here for Dr. Wright's quantum bridge technology. They're holding the exchange here at midnight. We have, she checked her watch, just over 2 hours to set up. I've asked all staff to leave, Chuck said. I used a story about a gas leak. The restaurant is empty except for us. Perfect, Sam nodded. We'll position 2 agents outside and 2 inside. Chuck, you and I will meet them with Dr. Wright. Once we have confirmation Alice is safe, we move in. Alice woke up as they were finishing their plans. She seemed scared by all the new people, but Chuck introduced Sam and explained she was there to help. Alice, Sam said gently, we need your help. Can you tell us anything about these people? How many will come tonight? Did you hear any plans? Alice sat up straighter. The woman is the boss. Her name is Vera. There are 4 men with her. They have guns that don't look normal. They shine with blue light. Sam and Chuck exchanged looks. Energy weapons were a hallmark of the Syndicate's off-world connections. They said they're bringing 2 cars. Alice continued. I heard them say something about a cleanup team coming after the exchange. That confirms it, Sam said grimly. They don't plan to leave witnesses. At 10:20 p.m., Dr. Frank Wright arrived. He was a thin man with tired eyes and messy brown hair. When he saw Alice, he ran to her and hugged her tightly, tears streaming down his face. I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry they did this to you, he whispered. Alice hugged him back. It's okay, Dad. Chuck saved me. Dr. Wright looked up at Chuck with grateful eyes. I can never repay you. You can by helping us catch these people, Chuck said. Did you bring the modified device? Dr. Wright nodded and patted his bag. It looks exactly like the real one. It will pass any visual inspection and even basic scans. But if they try to use it for anything important, it will fail and send out a signal we can track. Good, Sam said. Now we need to get Alice somewhere safe. No, Alice said suddenly. I want to help. Chuck knelt down to her level. The best way to help is to stay safe. These are dangerous people. But they'll want to see me, Alice argued. To prove I'm okay. Sam considered this. She's right, they'll want visual confirmation before handing over the device. I'm not putting her in danger again, Dr. Wright insisted. We won't, Chuck promised. Here's the new plan. We'll have one of Sam's agents take Alice to a secure location nearby. We'll set up a video call so the Syndicate can see she's safe, but she'll be far from any danger. Dr. Wright still looked worried, but he nodded. Okay, but I want to be at the exchange. They're expecting me. Of course, Chuck said. You, me, and Sam will meet them. The rest of the team will be hidden, ready to move in. One of Sam's agents, a kind woman named Lisa, took Alice to a secure van parked a half-mile away. 2 more agents went with them as guards. As midnight approached, Chuck, Sam, and Dr. Wright stood in the empty parking lot behind the restaurant. The modified quantum bridge device was in a metal case in Dr. Wright's hands. Sam's remaining agents were hidden around the area, weapons ready. Are you nervous? Chuck asked the scientist. Terrified, Dr. Wright admitted, but also angry. They took my daughter. They held her in a freezer. I want them to pay for that. They will, Chuck promised as headlights appeared in the distance. Here they come. 3 black cars drove into the parking lot behind the restaurant. They stopped about 20 feet away from where Chuck, Sam, and Dr. Wright stood. The cars formed a triangle shape, with the middle car pointing directly at the 3 waiting people. Stay calm, Chuck said quietly to Dr. Wright. Remember the plan. The back door of the middle car opened and a woman stepped out. She was tall and thin with perfect hair and a black suit that looked expensive. Her face was beautiful but cold, with no feeling in her eyes. This had to be Vera, the boss Alice had mentioned. 2 men got out from each of the other cars. They wore similar black suits and carried small silver objects that Chuck knew were weapons, not from Earth. They stayed near their cars, watching carefully. Dr. Wright, the woman said with a slight smile. I see you brought friends. That wasn't part of our deal. Neither was keeping my daughter in a freezer, Dr. Wright replied, his voice surprisingly steady. Vera shrugged. We needed a safe place. To keep her. Your Mr. Norris has many restaurants, and this one was perfect for our needs. She looked at Chuck with eyes that seemed to glow slightly in the dark. The famous Chuck Norris. I did not expect to meet a legend tonight. Chuck didn't smile back. You made it my business when you used my restaurant and hurt a child. Business is business, Vera said flatly. Now, Dr. Wright, I believe you have something for me. Dr. Wright held up the metal case. I want to see my daughter first. Vera nodded to one of her men, who took out a small tablet. He pressed some buttons and a screen appeared in the air above it. On the screen was Alice sitting in what looked like a van. She was reading a book and seemed calm. A live feed, Vera explained. As you can see, your daughter is fine. Now the quantum bridge? Please, Dr. Wright still didn't move. That could be a recording. I want to talk to her. Vera looked annoyed but nodded again. The man touched the screen and Alice looked up. Dad? Her voice came through clearly. Alice, are you okay? Dr. Wright asked. I'm fine, Dad. Lisa is really nice and they have hot chocolate here. Alice held up a cup to show him. Satisfied? Vera asked. Now the device. Dr. Wright looked at Chuck, who gave a small nod. The scientist stepped forward with the case. One of Vera's men came to take it, but Chuck moved between them. No. You want this technology so badly, you come get it yourself. Vera's eyes narrowed, but she walked forward. When she was 5 feet away, she stopped. Open it. Dr. Wright placed the case on the ground and opened it. Inside was a small silver device about the size of a cell phone with a few buttons and a small screen. The quantum bridge, Dr. Wright said. It can send messages instantly across any distance, even between planets or stars. No delay, no way to block it. Vera's eyes lit up with clear interest. And your research notes? Dr. Wright patted his jacket pocket. All here on a data drive. Everything you need to make more bridges. Vera took out a small scanning device and pointed it at the quantum bridge. It made a soft beeping sound and she looked pleased. It seems genuine, she said. She put the scanner away and reached for the case. As her fingers touched the handle, Sam's phone rang loudly. Vera jumped back, suddenly suspicious. Answer it, Chuck said to Sam. It might be important. Sam took out her phone. It's Lisa. She put it on speaker. Lisa, is everything okay? No. Lisa's voice was tense. We have a problem. Someone is following our van. Black SUV, heavily tinted windows. They've been behind us for 10 minutes. Vera's face changed. She looked angry and confused. That's not possible. Chuck looked at her sharply. What's not possible? We don't have anyone following your people, Vera said. All our team is here. Sam spoke into the phone again. Lisa, can you lose them? We're trying, but they're good. Wait, they're pulling alongside us now. I can see. There was a loud crash and the line went dead. Alice, Dr. Wright yelled. Chuck moved fast, grabbing Vera's arm and twisting it behind her. What game are you playing? This isn't us, Vera hissed, not trying to break free. She seemed genuinely surprised. We don't have other teams in the area. One of Vera's men raised his weapon, but Sam already had her gun out, pointing at him. Don't even think about it. If it's not you, then who is it? Chuck demanded, still holding Vera. There are others who want the quantum bridge, Vera admitted. Rivals. We call them the Pleiades group. They must have been watching Dr. Wright too. Sam was already on her radio. All units respond to Lisa's last location. Possible hostile. Takeover. Dr. Wright looked panicked. We need to go now. They have Alice. You're coming with us, Chuck told Vera. You're going to help us get that girl back. Why would I help you? Vera asked. Because if anything happens to Alice, I will personally make sure you regret it, Chuck said quietly. His voice was calm but carried a clear threat. Vera looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. The Pleiades group are dangerous. More dangerous than us. And they won't care about keeping the girl alive once they have the bridge. Sam, take Dr. Wright in your car and follow the tracker in Lisa's phone, Chuck ordered. I'll bring Vera with me. What about us? One of Vera's men asked. You have two choices, Chuck told them. Help us get Alice back, or get arrested when... The police arrive in about 5 minutes. The men looked at each other, then at Vera. She gave a small nod. We'll help, the man said. The Pleiades are our enemies too. Good, Chuck said. Follow us, but stay back unless we call for help. He took Vera to his truck while Sam led Dr. Wright to her car. As they got in, Vera looked at Chuck with curious eyes. You are not what I expected, Mr. Norris. What did you expect? Chuck asked as he started the engine. Someone softer. The stories about you seemed exaggerated. They usually leave out the important parts, Chuck said, driving fast out of the parking lot. Like my work with special government teams, or how much I dislike people who hurt children. Vera looked out the window. The Pleiades won't be gentle with your agents, or with the girl. Neither will I, Chuck said, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. Now tell me everything you know about these people while we drive. As they raced through the night, Chuck couldn't stop thinking about Alice, the brave little girl who had survived days in a freezer, only to be caught in an even more dangerous situation. He pressed the gas pedal harder. He had made her a promise, and Chuck Norris always kept his promises. Chuck drove fast through the dark streets of Houston. Next to him, Vera sat with a small computer in her hands tracking the signal from Lisa's phone. Turn left at the next light, Vera said. They're heading toward the old warehouse area near the docks. Chuck turned sharply, his truck tires squealing on the pavement. Tell me about these Pleiades people. Who are they? Like us, but worse, Vera replied. The Orion Syndicate at least follows certain rules. The Pleiades group doesn't care who gets hurt. They're after the same technologies we are, but they use them for worse things. And they're not human either? Chuck asked, his eyes fixed on the road. Vera looked at him with surprise. You know more than you should, Mr. Norris. I've been around, Chuck said simply. Government work shows you things most people never see. Sam's voice came through the radio. Chuck, we've located Lisa's van. It's stopped about a mile ahead, sending the exact location to your phone. Chuck's phone beeped with a map showing a small red dot. Got it, we're 3 minutes out. Wait, Vera said. You can't just drive straight in. The Pleiades will have guards posted. Then what do you suggest? Chuck asked. Pull over here. Vera pointed to a side street. We can approach on foot through those buildings. They won't expect that. Chuck considered for a moment, then pulled into the side street and parked. If this is a trick, it's not, Vera said firmly. The Pleiades are my enemies too, and, she hesitated, I don't approve of harming children despite what you might think. They got out of the truck. Chuck took a small device from under his seat that looked like a flashlight but wasn't. Sam's car pulled up behind them and she got out with Dr. Wright. The van is in a warehouse about quarter mile that way, Sam said, pointing. My team reports 5 armed guards outside. How did your agents get eyes on the location so fast? Vera asked with suspicion. We have resources, Sam replied shortly. The rest of my team is 2 minutes out. We should wait for them. Alice might not have 2 minutes, Dr. Wright said, his voice tight with worry. Chuck nodded. He's right. The 4 of us go now. Tell your team to come in as backup. Sam didn't look happy but agreed. Fine, but we go in careful and quiet. They moved through the dark buildings, staying in the shadows. Chuck led the way with Sam right behind him. Vera and Dr. Wright followed. As they got closer to the warehouse, they could see the van that had been carrying Alice. It was parked inside an open loading bay with its doors open. 2 men with guns stood nearby. What's the plan? Sam whispered. We need a distraction, Chuck said. He looked at Vera. Your people should be here by now. Can you contact them? Vera nodded and took out a small device. She pressed some buttons and spoke softly into it. A minute later, there was a loud crash from the other side of the warehouse. The guards looked up and moved toward the sound. Now, Chuck said. The 4 of them ran quickly to the van. It was empty. They must have taken her inside, Dr. Wright said, fighting to keep his voice down. The device you gave them, Vera said suddenly. The fake quantum bridge. Does it really send out a signal we can track? Yes, Dr. Wright said. It should be. Active now that they've tried to use it. Let me see. Vera held out her hand. Reluctantly, Dr. Wright took out a small tracker and gave it to her. She looked at it and pointed to a door on the side of the warehouse. They're in there, not moving. Chuck turned to Sam. You and Vera go around the back. Dr. Wright and I will go through this door. We meet in the middle. Be careful, Sam said. These aren't normal hostiles. Chuck nodded and waited until Sam and Vera disappeared around the corner. Then he turned to Dr. Wright. Stay behind me, do exactly as I say. They moved to the side door. It was locked, but Chuck took out a small tool and had it open in seconds. They slipped inside and found themselves in a dark hallway. At the end, light showed under a door. Chuck put his finger to his lips and moved silently down the hall, Dr. Wright right behind him. When they reached the door, Chuck pressed his ear against it. Inside, a man was speaking. The device isn't working right, something's wrong with it. A woman answered, her voice cold and angry. Fix it. We didn't go through all this trouble to get a broken bridge. Where's the girl? The man asked. In the back room. She's not important now that we have the device. Dr. Wright tensed at these words, but Chuck put a hand on his arm, keeping him still. What about the Orion agents and the others who were with the girl? The man asked. Being taken care of? The woman replied. Soon this will all be cleaned up, and we'll be gone with the prize. Chuck had heard enough. He whispered to Dr. Wright, When I go in, stay back until I call you, understand? Dr. Wright nodded, his face pale but determined. Chuck counted to 3 in his head, then kicked the door open and stepped inside. The room was large, with boxes and equipment scattered around. 4 people stood around a table in the center. On the table was the fake quantum bridge. All 4 turned in surprise as Chuck entered. Evening, folks, Chuck said calmly. I believe you have something that doesn't belong to you. The woman stepped forward. She was short with dark hair and eyes that seemed entirely black. Chuck Norris, this is an unexpected pleasure. Wish I could say the same, Chuck replied. Where's the girl? Safe for now, the woman said. But that could change quickly. I suggest you leave before my men return. Not without Alice, Chuck said. The woman smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Always the hero. How did you find us? You're not as clever as you think, Chuck said. As he spoke, he noticed movement behind the woman. Sam and Vera had entered through another door and were moving quietly around the edge of the room. The woman laughed. Clever enough to know when someone is stalling. She turned suddenly, seeing Sam and Vera. Ah, and you brought friends. One of the men with her pulled out a weapon and fired at Sam. A beam of blue light shot out, but Sam dove behind some boxes just in time. Chuck used the moment to move, faster than seemed possible for a man his age. He covered the distance to the first man in a heartbeat, knocking the weapon from his hand with a precise strike. The room erupted into chaos. The second man attacked Chuck while the third went for Vera. The woman stood back, reaching for something in her pocket. Find Alice! Chuck shouted to Dr. Wright as he blocked a punch and returned one of his own, sending the man stumbling backward. Dr. Wright ran toward a door at the back of the room. The woman saw him and aimed a small silver device at him, but Vera tackled her before she could fire. They fell to the floor, struggling for control of the weapon. Sam had recovered and was exchanging fire with the third man, both of them using the boxes and equipment as cover. Chuck was handling the first 2 men, his movements a blur as he blocked, struck and kicked with the skill of someone who had spent a lifetime mastering martial arts. Dr. Wright reached the back door and yanked it open. Inside the small room, Alice sat tied to a chair, her eyes wide with fear. When she saw her father, her face lit up. Dad! She cried as he rushed to untie her. I've got you, baby, he said, his fingers working quickly on the ropes. We're getting out of here. Dr. Wright untied Alice and hugged her tight. Are you hurt? No, Dad. I'm okay, Alice said. But we need to help Chuck and the others. In the main room, the fight continued. Chuck moved with amazing speed and skill, fighting 2 men at once. Every punch and kick landed exactly where he wanted. One man was already on the floor, not moving. The second tried to hit Chuck with a metal bar, but Chuck caught it and twisted it away. Sam was pinned behind a stack of boxes by the third man, who kept firing blue energy blasts from his weapon. Vera and the Pleiades woman rolled on the ground, fighting over the silver device in the woman's hand. "Stay here," Dr. Wright told Alice, but she shook her head. "No, Dad, I can help." Alice pointed to a control panel on the wall. "That controls the warehouse lights and doors. The man showed me when they thought I was asleep." Dr. Wright looked at his daughter with surprise and pride. "Show me." Together they moved along the wall toward the panel. No one noticed them in the chaos of the fight. When they reached it, Alice pointed to different buttons. "This one turns off all the lights. This one closes the big loading doors. And this one," she pointed to a red button, "sets off the fire alarm and sprinklers." Dr. Wright looked back at the fight. Chuck had beaten the second man, but the Pleiades leader had kicked Vera away and was now aiming her device at Chuck's back. Sam was still trapped by energy blasts. "Alice, when I say now, hit all 3 buttons in order," Dr. Wright said. He picked up a piece of metal pipe from the floor and moved closer to the fighting. "Now!" he shouted. Alice pushed the buttons. The warehouse went dark. The big loading bay doors began to close with a loud rumble, and seconds later, alarms blared and water sprayed from sprinklers in the ceiling. In the confusion, Dr. Wright swung the pipe and hit the man shooting at Sam. The man fell to the ground. Sam jumped out from behind the boxes and tackled the Pleiades leader, just as she fired her weapon at where Chuck had been standing. The blast hit a pile of boxes, which exploded in flames despite the sprinkler water. The fire spread quickly to nearby crates. "We need to get out now," Chuck shouted over the alarms. "This place is going to burn fast." The loading doors were almost closed. Chuck ran to Alice and Dr. Wright. "This way." He pointed to a small side door. Sam and Vera followed, leaving the Pleiades members on the floor. They ran outside just as the flames became visible through the warehouse windows. In the distance, sirens could be heard. "My team is securing the perimeter," Sam said, checking her phone. "Fire department is 3 minutes out." Alice looked up at the burning warehouse. "What about those people inside?" Chuck put his hand on her shoulder. "My guess is they're already gone. People like that always have escape plans." If to prove his point, a small aircraft rose from behind the warehouse. It didn't look like any normal helicopter or plane. It hovered for a moment, then shot away at incredible speed, disappearing into the night sky. "What was that?" Dr. Wright asked, his eyes wide. "Something not from around here," Vera said quietly. She turned to Chuck. "I should go too. My people will be wondering what happened." "You're not going anywhere yet," Sam said, pointing her gun at Vera. "We have questions." Vera smiled. "Perhaps another time." She pressed a button on her wrist and a bright light surrounded her. When it faded, she was gone. "Teleportation tech," Sam muttered. "Great." Fire trucks arrived and firefighters rushed to control the blaze. Sam's team appeared from various hiding spots around the warehouse. One agent brought the fake quantum bridge device, which they had recovered during the fight. "At least we got this back," Dr. Wright said, taking the device. "And more importantly, we got Alice back." Alice hugged her father, then turned to Chuck. "Thank you for saving me, twice." Chuck smiled and knelt down to her level. "You saved yourself too. That was smart thinking with the control panel." Alice beamed with pride. Sam approached them. "We need to get you both to a safe location. The Pleiades might try again." "What about my wife?" Dr. Wright asked suddenly. "She's away at a conference, but if these people know about Alice, they might target Linda too." "Already taken care of," Sam assured him. "We sent agents to bring her to a safe house. You'll see her tomorrow." 3 months later, Chuck sat in the audience of a special NASA ceremony. On stage, Dr. Wright was receiving an award for his quantum bridge technology, which was now being used on space missions to Mars and beyond. Alice and her mother Linda sat in the front row, smiling proudly. After the kidnapping, Dr. Wright had agreed to work with Sam's agency to make sure his invention was used safely. Special security measures now protected him and his family, and the quantum bridge technology was carefully controlled to keep it from falling into dangerous hands. The Pleiad's group had not been seen since that night at the warehouse, though Sam's team remained alert for any sign of them. The Orion Syndicate had pulled back their Earth operations after losing to Chuck and his friends. When the ceremony ended, Chuck met the Wright family outside the NASA building. "Mr. Norris." Alice ran to him and gave him a hug. At 12 years old, she had recovered well from her ordeal, showing the same strength she had displayed in the freezer and the warehouse. "How's my favorite scientist doing?" Chuck asked with a smile. "Great. Dad's letting me help with his new project. It's a special shield that can block quantum signals. He says I have good ideas." "That doesn't surprise me at all," Chuck replied. "Doctor." Wright shook Chuck's hand. "We can never thank you enough. If you hadn't walked into that restaurant that night." "Just lucky timing," Chuck said. "How are you all doing?" "Good," Linda Wright said. "The new security takes some getting used to, but it's worth it to feel safe." "And the quantum bridge is changing space exploration," Dr. Wright added. "Messages that used to take 20 minutes to reach Mars now arrive instantly. It's already saved lives when a dust storm hit the Mars base last month." "That's what it's all about," Chuck said. "Using our knowledge to help people, not harm them." As they walked together toward the parking lot, Alice looked up at the clear blue sky. "Do you think they're still out there? The Pleiades and the Orion people?" "Probably," Chuck said honestly. "But so are we. And we'll be ready if they come back," Alice said with determination. Chuck smiled at her courage. He had faced many opponents in his life, both in movies and in his secret government work, but he knew the future was safe with young people like Alice. People who used their brains as well as their bravery, who fought for what was right, and who never gave up even when locked in a freezer or tied up in a warehouse. As his old friend Sam liked to say, humanity's greatest strength wasn't our weapons or our technology, but our heart. And looking at the Wright family now, happy and whole despite everything they had been through, Chuck believed that more than ever, some legends were born in the pages of comic books or on movie screens, but the real heroes were often just ordinary, people who did extraordinary things when it mattered most. The end.